What is the father of good governance? What? Not who. What is the father of good governance? Take a guess. The father of good governance is bad governance. In fact, the father of anything good is a bunch of thieves and crooks. I'm going to tell you the story in exactly 8 minutes. And then I would jump on to 1 minute of why this is the time, and another 1 minute, what can you do about it? So when human beings started settling from hunter-gatherers, at some point of time we were all hunter-gatherers, and then we started settling down in an agrarian economy, there were these bunch of thieves and crooks who used to plunder the societies, who were referred to as roving bandits. There is this brilliant political scientist called Mankur Olson. He names them as roving bandits. So these roving bandits, what they used to do is that they would go from village to village and they would end up plundering these villages. But soon, 2 problems started happening. The first problem, because they were always being plundered, the villagers, what they started doing is that they do not have any motivation to save anything at all. They wouldn't save up anything. What is the point of saving? Right? Anyway, you would get plundered. So there are no savings for the thieves and the bandits to come and plunder. Second, the competition started building up for the thieves. So the minute they would end up coming to a village, they would immediately find that there was another bunch of crooks who had already come over there and plundered. So, as human beings, roving bandits got very smarter. So they started settling themselves down in a village and naming themselves as stationary bandits. And stationary bandits soon realized that it's not good to plunder 100%. If you end up plundering 100%, people will not end up saving anything. So probably you should end up plundering 80%, 60%, probably 30 to 40%. Probably plunder just 30 to 40% and call it taxes. Second, they also realize that it makes a lot of sense to invest a part of their money into something which is called the public utilities or public services. So you end up building infrastructure, you end up building markets, you end up building good roads, because they ultimately realize that when you have infrastructure, when you have roads, when you have bridges, when you have markets, people end up trading more, people end up making more of money, which would mean that the 30% becomes much higher. Another thing started happening without the knowledge of all these crooks and bandits. When they were providing these public utilities, and when they reduced the plundering rate to 30 to 40%, the wealth in the hands of the people started increasing. There was a rise in the middle class, there is a rise in aristocracy, and money is power. So at some point of time, all these wealthy individuals, what they could do is that they could actually threaten the stationary bandits, who have actually right now become what you call as, so you have roving bandits, stationary bandits, dictators, benevolent dictators. Are you with me? Benevolent dictators. And at some point of time, these people could actually hold up the benevolent dictators because they had the money. Alright? And the benevolent dictators could do 2 things. One is that you could repress them with power, which is quite not that nice. We are seeing it in Egypt and Syria and places like that, right? It's not really nice. So another one is that you could just concede. Fair enough, you're asking for some discounts, I would just concede to it. And eventually, these concessions started becoming permanent concessions. And we have with us democracy. It's true. So the father of good governance is bad governance. The United Nations defines good governance as participative, consensus-oriented, transparency. So you already saw how exactly complete lack of transparency, complete lack of consensus building, complete lack of participation transforms into consensus, into participation, into transparency. Every social setup goes through this cycle. Every social setup goes through this dynamics. However, there comes a particular generation in the history of every social setup who would end up rewriting the entire rules which were there earlier. They would pick up the threads which were provided to them by the earlier generations. They would build on it. The good news is that this is the generation. This is the generation where good governance would become more prevalent. Why it would become more prevalent? I have 3 reasons. 1, we are right now getting more and more news about democratic organizations itself. A lot of openness in the societies. We are seeing examples of nations like Libya, Egypt, Arab Spring. Democracy is all around. The democracy is the flavor right now. Our children, the next generation, they are growing up with the smell of democracy. Second, there is a lot of collaborative culture shaping up, primarily because of technology. You look at technology, you would see that there is quite a lot of collaborative cultures which are happening. Third, at some point of time, information was exactly like this. Information was closed. And right now we are seeing that information is becoming open. Everybody has got access to information. You've got Facebook, you've got Twitter. Information which was earlier closed is becoming open right now. Which is exactly what is open information? What is open information? What's the other name, or what is one word for open information? Transparency. Absolutely. Transparency. That's exactly the reason why I very strongly believe that this is the generation. So what are we doing about it? I'm doing 2 things about it. One is that I lead an organization which is called Leadcap. Second, I lead an organization for the World Economic Forum which is called the Global Shapers. Both of which we try to inculcate leadership qualities in the youngsters. We try to inculcate critical thinking in the youngsters. When you start having critical thinking, that's the time when you realize that there is merit, not just in my opinion, there is also merit in your opinion, as well as your opinion, which is consensus building and participatory. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the session.